Hey, Anya. So, it's almost Valentine's Day. Fingers crossed it will be Valentine's Day when this video comes out. And I'm a big romance reader. What can I say? 66% of the books that I read last year were romance. And by 66%, I mean 66 books, because I did read 100 books, so making percentages is really easy. Even more of the books I read had romance elements in them. Um, and I really enjoyed that. I think it's really fun. I think it's a good way to add some intrigue and emotion and characterization. I love a romance subplot. What can I say? But when I'm actually reading romance books, frequently what I'm not looking for is good characterization, interesting, not annoying main characters, MMCs with zero red flags, a super healthy relationship. Um, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I do actually enjoy a third act breakup. I think they're fun. Um, might catch hate for that, so sorry. But also I'm here for the drama. That's why I'm reading these books, right? And frequently what I'm looking for is specifically MMCs that are unhinged. Crazy. Not men that I find attractive, not men that I would ever be like, book boyfriend. No, these men are crazy. These men need help, like respectfully. But I think that's funny. I enjoy it. I think it's hilarious, and it makes the reading experience way better for me personally. So, yeah, to be clear, when I'm reading romance, I want to read about the most contrived, ridiculous, laugh out loud reasons that these people are getting into whatever trouble they're getting into. That's what I want out of a romance book because, what do you mean you're arranged married because your grandma made you? That's crazy. That's insane. You're just a guy, you know? You are in fact just a guy. Um, but tell me all about it. You know what I'm saying? I think that's so fun. Sometimes, behind all of that contrived weirdness, the characters are lovable, the plots are interesting, there is growth, and that's all great. But that is very rarely what I'm looking for. So today, I wanted to go through a list of my favorite romances and sort of why they're my favorite. All of that having been said, sometimes I do pick up books and they are just genuinely moving romances, and the characters are beautiful and their relationships are amazing and everything is good and happy. So I will include some of those recommendations too. And then I also wanted to include books with strong romances that maybe don't actually fit in the romance genre and are not a formulaic romance the way that books written in the genre are. Yeah. So this video is going to be in 3 parts. First part is going to be my contrived, weird, bizarre romances, and these are less recommendations and more examples of the weird things that I enjoy. Um, part 2 are going to be four recommendations of romances that are genuinely just they stick with me. I think about these romances all the time and I love them, and I think everybody should read them. Part 3 is going to be a kind of honorable mention category of just some beautiful romances that are actually not the forefront of the story, or if they are, it's still not in a romance genre. So let's dive in. So my first entry on this list, my queen, the love of my life. This book is an example of what I'm looking for, but not my actual specific recommendation, is Anna Huang. I love Anna Huang. I love her writing and the weird things that she does with her plots. Anna writes book versions, genuinely I believe this, of old CW TV shows, good CW TV shows. People are getting captured, people are singing in public, people are doing all kinds of things. And all of this is happening in the context of sort of billionaires and people people do be saying that Anna Huang writes dark romances. No, but she writes on this really fun line where like elements that happen in dark romances happen in her books, and like there are definitely like dark themes and like check your content warnings, right? But the tone of these books is so like fluffy billionaire romance. It's really bizarre, but it's a really fun time. So, Twisted Love is her first book in her Twisted series. My favorite book of hers is King of Wrath, which is her first book in her Kings of Sin series. Both really have that sort of energy of like, literally, what is happening? None of this makes sense. Please tell me more. Um, but Twisted Love does it in the most sort of concise way. So I would recommend reading Twisted Love and like, do not take it seriously. Do not take her book seriously. That's not the point. But sorry, Anna, if you wanted people to take your book seriously. My bad. Still love you though. She's never gonna see this. But basically, yeah. What was I saying? Oh, so if you want to like find the silly romances that you're like, somebody really like is reading this and is like genuinely like, romantic. That's so funny. Like respectfully, that's so funny. Um, Twisted Love, I think, is the quickest way to do it. It's got the same amount going on as all of the other books, but it's done in like 100 pages less. Um, again, respectfully to Miss Anna, um, she is suffering from famous author syndrome, where she, uh, and also like a good chunk of her books were indie published before. I have the Bloom editions, yeah, before she got trad published. So some of them are really long when they don't need to be, and I think her current releases that are coming out have gotten tighter and like been better. So I think she's really benefiting from an editor like telling her no, or like giving her like genuine like content edits, as opposed to just like add a comma here, right? Like both of those are values that editors have, but I think she's currently benefiting from like real story editing. But Twisted Love is really tight, really funny. It's not meant to be funny. I think it's super funny. So yeah, that's my first one. Twisted Love is the example, but Anna Huang is the recommendation. Okay. Next recommendation. Okay, so this first section it's occurring to me that like don't maybe read all of these books, but I just wanted to talk about this funny thing that they do. So, man, I hope the audio wasn't messed up when my hair was on that. Okay, so this book, again, I really don't actually think you need to read it, because like the the romance element is like most of the book, and it's the most annoying part of the book. Like I do not care about these two, but okay, I'm not gonna talk about it. I'll just okay. Neon Gods by Katie Robert. This is not a good romance. Respectfully, it's kind of unhinged. I think it is considered dark romance. I read it a couple years ago, so I don't actually remember super clearly. But and honestly, like this is not a recommendation for this book, but if you really like Greek mythology, this is a Hades and Persephone retelling, and like if you really like Greek mythology, like I myself do, for context, am currently getting a master's about it. The choices that Katie Robert makes in adapting the like pantheon of gods into potentially magical, it's not clear to me whether magic is involved in this series at all. I read the whole first book. I do not know if there's magic. Into the gods are like a political system of a single city, but like a little bit the city is like locked down and you can't leave. It's really unclear to me. But basically, like, you enter this book and you're in this city, and Persephone, the main character, is like, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to get out of the city because my mom's insane. And she's like a big, like, political climber. And her mom is Demeter, right? But like, Demeter is like a political position that you like get elected to. And again, I'm not sure if there's magic involved, but So like all of the 12 Olympian gods are political positions that people get elected to, except for Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus and Hera, because like Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades are all like genetic, or not genetic, but like inherited titles, like passed down from like parent to child. And then Hera is like the first lady. So whoever is married to like whoever is currently Zeus is Hera. And the current Zeus has like had like 3 or 4 Heras, and it's like maybe killing them. It's crazy. And so like that element, like this adaptation of the Greek pantheon into this thing is so interesting, and I desperately want something that is that, but not with the romance in the middle, because like it's this weird attempt, respectfully to Katie Robert, like it is a kind of weird attempt at like not even like BDSM relationship, but like a kink adjacent relationship, but like they never actually do it. It's really weird. Um like again, I'm sure Katie Robert do be writing crazy things, but like it feels like she just doesn't commit, at least in this one, which was like kind of annoying having read all the way through. Like I don't really care what they do, but like getting all the way through and then you're like, oh, so you've like spent this whole thing like trying to like do this thing and then you wimp out. It was weird. It was weird. Um yeah. So it don't read it. But also maybe look into like the setup because it's kind of funny. And a lot of Greek myth retellings do a similar sort of like, okay, I have to adapt like the Greek pantheon to the world that I'm trying to write, and I do like reading those and like seeing the choices authors make. So that's fun. If you enjoy Greek myth, that's a cool time. Um, yeah. My next one is a recommendation that I think is really fun, and I think that if you grew up on AO3 and FF.net, like I myself did, um, you'll enjoy yourself. This Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This is obvious. I tried to pick less obvious recommendations for this, um, but this was just a really good example of the things that I like, which it's like, it's so contrived. She like is arranged married. I love an arranged marriage because every setup for an arranged marriage makes very little sense and is held together by like paper and glue. Like it's so funny. And I think Bride is a really good example of it, with also like an engaging enough plot that like you're having a good time. There's some Omegaverse elements. I actually don't know that I would call them Omegaverse elements. I would call them werewolf fan fiction elements. Um, the girlies who get it, and the girlies who don't, and that's fine. It's okay, actually. You don't need to get it. It's not a big deal. But I had a lot of fun. Ali Hazelwood is really funny too. Like she's like meta kind of funny. Like she's writing these books and she's like, this is a joke. Like this is a joke that we're all in on and we're all having fun with together. And I really respect her for that. Because I think after the Love Hypothesis came out, everybody was like, Ali Hazelwood's so stupid. Like all of her books are dumb. Like all of her main characters are cringy. And you're just like, no, they're just people, and like sometimes people are cringy, and like that's great. And Ali Hazelwood is in on that joke, which is clear in her later releases. Like she heard that feedback and was like, yeah, I don't care what you think. I'm doing this because I think it's fun. And I really respect that. So yeah, Bride was good. Bride. I hope you can hear the like something. Okay. And then my last book in this section doesn't really meet the same sort of like wildness standards of the first 3, but I did want to kind of give it a moment in the sun because it's the book that kind of got me back into reading romance and like realizing that I like romance and romance can be silly and like that's fun. And that's The Deal by Elle Kennedy. This was a good time. It's just a good time. And I think it's an easy beginner romance. It's a hockey romance. Hannah, yeah, her name's Hannah. Hannah and Garrett, love Garrett. Hannah and Garrett are taking a class together, and he's like, "Hey, Queen, I'm about to fail this class. Can you please help me? I do not understand what's going on." And she's like, "No, I'm busy." And then he's like, "I see you eyeing that guy over there. I can help you get him if you help me with my grade." And she's like, "I'm not that busy. Okay." And so she agrees, and then they fall in love. And I think maybe fake date. Is that how he like tries to? It doesn't matter. Maybe I'll reread this. I've reread this a couple times. It's got to be fake dating. It doesn't matter. Love them. So yeah, equally like silly and nonsense to most romances, but and it really doesn't stand out. It just stands out for me personally in my own reading journey. So yeah, enough with that category. Let's move on to actually genuine good romances. This video is already getting really long. What time is it? Oh shit, I need to leave soon. These are like books with really delightful romances that like romances that were just so touching to me when I read them and like really stuck with me and are books that I think about a lot to this day. The first one is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This is a Regency like fairy romance where our main character, when she's a child, um, loses half of her soul to like a fairy king or whatever, and because of that, she sort of comes off as very odd and very cold and like doesn't feel her like she's described as not feeling her emotions as deeply or as clearly as other people. And I thought that like her relationship, not only with the MMC of this character, but all of the people in her life, was just really interesting, really meaningful, really well thought through by the author. And it was really good. It was really good. If you like Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, this has a very similar energy. And our main character, whose name I don't remember, Dora, they call her Dora. Okay, yeah. Dora is kind of working as like neurodivergent coded in this Regency world, and I think it's really well done. I love her so much. Highly recommend. My next book is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This is another example of like I wanted to give like off the beaten path recommendations, but I love this one so much that I couldn't leave it out. This recommendation is really impacted by my personal journey. Alex Claremont Diaz. Okay. Alex Claremont Diaz is the main character here. He's the first son of the United States, and he falls in love with the spare to the British throne, Henry. And in doing so, Alex kind of comes to know himself. He discovers his own sexuality. He discovers what he wants and what he needs in life. And he's so sweet. And I related to him so deeply. Like, ugh, yeah, every time I read this, like, I just feel this, like, cord between me and Alex, like, strengthening because, like, I just connect with him so much that this book just means so much to me. So it's a great romance. Definitely recommend. My next book is A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. This is also a Regency romance, which is like I don't know that childhood friends to lovers is the best way to describe it. So Viola is a trans woman living in Regency, England, and she grew up with this best friend of hers whose name is something, the Duke of Gracewood. Gracewood. She grew up with this best friend, and then they went to war together. And in war, Viola got the opportunity to essentially fake her death and transition and then live her life as the woman that she is. And in doing so, is able to find a lot of fulfillment in her life, but is also kind of alone and isn't 100% fulfilled. And then she gets the opportunity to sort of reintroduce herself to Gracewood and get to like re-know him, and he gets to re-know her, and they end up falling in love. And at first he doesn't know who she is, but um, the way that they come back together is really beautiful. Their relationship, ugh, it just means so much to me. It was so well done, great trans representation. Ugh, I love these people. I love these two. They're so good. They're so good. This was such a good book. Recommend. Absolutely, absolutely recommend. And then, wow, I did not realize how many Regency. Well, this isn't Regency. So my last recommendation for just like genuinely good romances, this one might not technically be in the romance genre, but I don't care, is A Marvelous Light by Freya Marsk. This is about two guys in like 19, like turn of the century England, and they are sort of unexpectedly thrust together in a sort of work situation. And one of them, Robin, he's out here like just a guy. And then Edwin, he is a magic user. And so he like encounters Robin in their workplace. And Robin is just sort of suddenly placed in this like working role and ends up needing to learn about magic, needing to be guided through everything that's going on. And then also they need to save the world. And there's like a mystery, somebody's died, like they're investigating, and all the while they're like becoming like, this is, I don't like when people like call a trope strangers to lovers, because literally what is that? That doesn't, that's everybody. But this actually is like kind of strangers to lovers, and it's so moving. And by the end of the book they just love each other so much, and it's so delightful. And like they're both so sweet, and like obviously they're gay men in like 1900 London, which is dangerous. Um, but there's like joy and beauty like still found within that, and it allows them to sort of just be themselves and like know each other so fully. And it's such a good book. It's such a good book. Recommend. It's actually the first in a trilogy, and then like second and third book are two other couples. So like there's this guy that they meet and like have to work with, and I think he's the main character of the third book. And then Robin, his younger sister, is the main character of the second book. And they're all three different queer romances, but they're all like slowly solving the world saving magic problem throughout the series. And I haven't read the second two, but I'm excited to. So yeah, A Marvelous Light. Okay, and now into the honorable mentions. I do not have a lot of time. We need to be going. I have class soon. But I did want to mention these. I think they're really delightful. So my first recommendation is Wolf Song by TJ Klune. This is a story about two young boys who meet when they're still children, and then they grow up and they find family with each other and with each other's families and with their community. And also one of them is a werewolf, and there are multiple werewolves in the story, but they have to sort of reckon with the trauma that they've had in their past. They have to lead their friends and their family to safety, essentially. Like they're all in one place, but like there's a lot that goes on. This book spans the length of like potentially 15 years, if not more. And it's so heart-wrenching the whole time. It's the first in a 4-book series. And like this, it's kind of similar to A Marvelous Light, where like each book is a different couple, but it's like one overarching plot. Um, yeah. And like I've only read this one because I know the other three are gonna take me out. Like I like had a book hangover from this book for days. I marked it up, I tabbed it. I don't know if you can see, but I like wrote in it. And like this was one of those books where I didn't expect to tap it. Like I was just gonna sit down and read it, and then within a page, I was like, "Oh no, I'm about to cry, and I need to like start taking notes." Yeah, it was so beautiful, and also T.J. Klune is so funny, and it's just so good. He's the same author as The Extraordinaries, which is a queer YA superhero trilogy, and then also his most famous, I think, is House in the Cerulean Sea. So he did all of those, and he's very good at his job. He's a great writer. So I can't wait to I can't wait to read more from him, and I can't wait to finish the series, but also I can because it hurt me. Oh, it's so good. Okay, we need to move on. I do not have time for this. Okay, next book, another one that is like kind of obvious. Tried to stay off the really big ones, but I had to say something. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. It's so good. Emily and Wendell are so cute. They aren't like the main like plot of the book, but like I think these books, I've read the first two. The third one literally came out 2 days ago, and I've been to so many bookstores here, and none of them have had it. And I'm so frustrated, but it's fine. I should have pre-ordered it. That's my bad, but whatever. I think these books are a really good example of having like a really strong plot and having not even a romance subplot, but just like a romance like underpinning everything and not making it, oh no, and not making it like the central issue, but making it really important to everything that's going on and like showing growth through that romance. Ugh, I love Emily and Wendell. Wendell's such a silly boy. He's delightful. I relate to Emily so much. She's so great. And yeah, so read these if you haven't. If you haven't, what are you doing? Like literally, actually, what are you doing? Read the series, dude. My next one is A Winter's Promise by Christelle Debeau. She's this is translated from French. So I'm sorry, I don't know how, I don't have time to look up how to pronounce your name. I really don't. We don't have time for this. This is the first book in the Mirror Visitor series. I really don't have all the time in the world to go over what this is about. But basically, this girl lives on the Ark of Anima, where her and all of the people who live there have powers related to like things. So like she can like touch something and like see its history, and other people can like animate things, and like she's got a scarf that like does stuff, and she specifically also has the ability to walk through mirrors, which is why it's called the Mirror Visitor series. And she's living her life, having a good time, and then she gets arranged married to some guy on a completely different arc, where all the people on these arcs have like mind powers. Like some of them, like there's this one family called the Web that like they can all just like always be talking to each other in their minds. It's crazy. I would hate that. But basically, it's a much scarier, much less egalitarian society. And so she moves there and is just sort of like thrust into intrigue and mystery and everything. And this is a 4-book series. I've only read the first 3 because the 4th one hadn't been translated and then published as an audiobook yet. And it definitely has since then. It's been actual years, but I keep putting it off. Sorry. But yeah, this is the slowest of burns, which is why I love it so much. Our main girl, Ophelia, and Thorn, yeah. Ophelia and Thorn, like, I think talk twice in like, this book. And then, like, we do not get resolution to their relationship. Like, even until the end of the 3rd book, but even then, like, that's a strong way to put it. They're so good. It's so good. But then you can, like, see them, like, in the way that they're, like, doing things. It's so good. Read it. Read it. It's also just a great fantasy. It's a great fantasy. It's so fun. It's got the like sort of like weird sort of like, is this fantasy or is this like future sci-fi? Like it's not completely clear, but it is working with a magic system. So like if you don't like sci-fi, that's okay. Like you'll still like this because it is like inherently fantasy, but like there are elements of like, did Earth explode? Is that what we're working with right now? What's happening? So it's really good. Read it. Read it. Okay, and then my last book, because I have no time, is The Winter King by C.L. Wilson. This is true romantasy. This is what romantasy was before we gave it a name. Kamzin is a princess, and her dad is the king, and he's evil, and we hate him, and he loses a war to the Winter King, because she's from the Summer Kingdom, and he's from the Winter Kingdom. Her dad loses a war to the Winter King, and then the Winter King's like, ha 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 ha, I'm gonna make you like give me one of your daughters to marry, because he's a butt face, but also he like needs to do this because he's like cursed. And Kamzin is like, oh my gosh, and she's like spying or whatever. I'm not gonna explain it. But her king is like, oh yeah, I'll totally give you one of my daughters, but he secretly has the secret daughter, which is Kamsin. And then he tricks the Winter King, but then they fall in love, and it's delightful. Because it's a romance. But also, this is very much like, I think when I was recommended this initially, whoever was recommending it said that like Sarah J. Maas has like said that C.L. Wilson is one of her like big inspirations, and she like really loves her stories, and like you can definitely see a lot of similarities. There's the mate bonds. There's like a similar element of like how the magic works or how people like interact with the magic, how people feel about the magic. Um, Kimson's really fun. She reminds me a lot of Aelin in a lot of ways. But anyway, she is her own person. Like there's not really a one-to-one there, but like she as a main character is very similar to Sarah J. Maas's main characters in a lot of ways. And it's a delightful time. It's so good. This is so fun. Read it. Okay, yeah. I really, really need to get going. Okay, well, so those are all of the romances that I wanted to tell you about for celebrating Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. Thank you for watching. This video is so long. Editing me later is going to be so sad. Okay, well, goodbye. Miss you.